Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of the Andante Cantabile by Gluck from the Old Masters for Young Players series that we're doing. So today we're on the viola, and for those of you on Patreon, hello, and thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you enjoy the class. And there's also a special picture for you on Patreon with all of my little notes that I've put in. So I've just added that as an attachment because it's probably going to be helpful. However, we're still going to verbally go over everything, and you don't necessarily need the attachment if you're not on Patreon, but please go support the Patreon community. I would be appreciated. But anyway, we're going to go through the second half of this today. So in part 1, we did the first 3 lines of Andante Cantabile, which is the second piece in the Old Masters for Young Players book. And today we're going to do the last 3 lines. So we're going to start out with line 4 today. And the first thing we're going to do is put in some of the counting. We really worked on counting in the first half, so it's not as complicated on the second half. So we're not going to be quite as detailed as we were when we did the first part of part 1, I guess. We are going to get some of the nuances though with dynamics as well today. So grab a pencil. Let's find line 4. And in line 4, the very first measure, you have a dotted 8th note, a 16th note. We got a little grace note and a quarter note. And then we got a dotted 8th note and a 16th note. So we have a little bit of a complicated rhythm there. Our time signature is in 3/4. So there's 3 beats in a measure, and a quarter note gets the beat. So if we find our grandfather clock, right, a grandfather clock goes back and forth, and there's all sorts of ways that you can subdivide the beat if you want within these big beats, but these big beats, they never change. So if you look at the beginning of line 4, that first measure, we have to subdivide our beat in 16th notes because we have a dotted 8th note. How long are we going to hold a dotted 8th note for? For 3 16th notes. 1 E and is the last little 16th note. So grab your pencil, and over the D, the dotted 8th note in line 4, the beginning of line 4, let's put 1 E, a little plus for and, over the dotted 8th note, and then over the 16th note, that's your so an A. 1 E and And then on beat 2, we have the grace note and the quarter note, so you can just put a big 2 on that. And then beat 3 is the next note, which is a dotted 8th note again, so we got to put 3 starting it, and then we have 3 16th notes for that. 3 E and 3 E and then on the 16th note. So that's our first little place. Let's look at the last measure of that line. So this is line 4, measure 3. We've got a half note, and then we have a little grace note into the triplets. So in order to not get confused there, we're going to put our big beats counting above the half note. So you've got 1, 2 over the half note, and then the grace note begins on beat 3. That's that little tiny note that's attached to the triplet. So you've got your big beats. 1, 2, 3 is over the grace note and triplet. But we need to subdivide in triplets because we're going to be dealing with triplets. So back to your big beats. 1, 2. Let's put 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, and then over the triplet 3, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3. So I'm going to play it for you. Let's hear what it sounds like. And then there's one other detail that we're going to put in that has to do with the dynamics. So we have 1 sharp, it's an F sharp. Father Charlie goes down and eats breakfast is the order of the sharps. So if you have 1 sharp, it's father, F sharp. So on the C string, that gives you the extended 3rd hand pattern. Your middle 2 strings are your basic hand pattern. And then the A string is low 2 hand pattern. So 1, 2, 3 E and 1 E and a 2, 3 E and 1, 2, 3 E and 1, 2, this one sounds like rhythmically. So let's take a look at measure 2. Measure 2 has a little diminuendo or decrescendo to piano. So the easiest way to do the dynamic there is to just use less bow. So in measure 2, I'm going to show you 2 different ways. Watch my bow. Here's the first way. So in that one, it kind of stayed the same / crescendoed into beat 2. This way is the opposite. I'm going to decrescendo into beat 2 and into beat 3. So I used a lot of bow on the first one, and then very little. So over measure 2, let's write, you could write like WB for whole bow over beat 1. Use the whole bow almost for that first beat. And then you can write stay at the tip. All right, and actually while we're on this thought, the beginning of the next line, this is line 5, we have a half note, which we have to crescendo into. Sorry, we don't have to crescendo into the half note, but we have to crescendo out of the half note, I should say, and into the triplet. So let's write more bow over that measure. So this is the beginning of line 5. And let's just write over that first measure there, use more bow. Okay, but this line 5 here, I don't have anything really marked rhythmically because it's basically all just half notes and triplets, which we just went through on the previous line. So I'm going to just play it for you and then we'll talk about the dynamics a little bit more. So this is line 5, 1, 2. So line 5, let's talk about the dynamics. The first measure we talked about. The second measure has dim written for diminuendo. So we're going to not crescendo, we're going to kind of let it die away a little bit. So if I start from measure 2, instead of, but see if you can die away a little bit. And then in the next measure, under the half note D, there's a swell, which you can do by changing the speed. Slow, fast, slow. That's an easy way to do it. There's some other things that you could do, but if we were to just do one thing, for beat 3, let's use more bow as you go through the triplet. So the first note I'm not using very much. Then the next one. The third one has the most bow. In the next measure, beat 1 and beat 2. Beat 1 has lots of bow. And beat 2, not very much. And then there's the word crescendo. So the crescendo is going to kind of build progressively. It doesn't happen right away. So if you listen to the end of line 5 into line 6, the first one, it's the first stair. To piano. So maybe staying at the tip at the end of the first ending. So I think with that, let's go back to the line 4. We'll go back to that 4th line where we started. We'll play it through, and then we'll play through the whole thing and just see how it goes. So I'm going to put the metronome on, and it says at the top, con espressione, so with expression, so not too fast. This is 50 if you're curious. You can go faster, you can go slower, but I think for now this is kind of a nice moderate tempo. So here's the beginning of line 4. If you want, you can just listen and sing along with me. If you want to try and play along with me, you can. Let's see how this goes. By the way, let's see. Down bow, up bow, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So it's going to start on a down bow, hopefully. 1, 2, 3. To line 3. All right, so let's try playing through the whole thing. And at the very end, when we have the retard, I won't be with the metronome, but hopefully for the whole thing I will be until we get to the retard. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning. Let's put our instruments up. We started on beat 3, so I'm going to give us a whole measure to count in 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to subdivide 1 E and a, 2 E and a, and we come in on 3 E and a. Okay, so let's get ready. I'm at the tip of the bow for this one because it's piano, dolce, sweetly. 1, 2, 3. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a. So that is it for the beautiful Andante Cantabile. All you have to do now is go find a pianist friend to play this with. So, that's one of the joys of music, is playing music with other people. So happy practicing. See if you can sing this one from your heart. You know, it's one thing to practice reading what's on the page, but it's another thing to kind of make it your own and sing it your own way, but through your instrument. So have fun with it, and I hope you're understanding the rhythms. The rhythms can be kind of confusing, but I don't want to bore you to death with them too much like I did the first time. I hope you had a lovely time with me today, and I'll see you next time. All right, you guys, thank you for being here.